In this video, I just want to do a quick demonstration of how to create a SQL Server instance in an Azure container instance. This is a new feature from Microsoft Azure. It's currently in preview. They say it only works on Linux, but apparently it works on Windows. I haven't actually tried it on a Windows container. I've only tried it in Linux. But what I really like about this option is that you don't need to maintain your own Docker host. You don't need to maintain your own Docker cluster, your own container cluster on AWS or Azure. You can simply just fire up a container at will. What it does do is it will download the image file from Docker Hub. So if we go to Docker Hub now and have a look, this is the image we're going to use, Microsoft / SQL Server Linux. There is a Windows one as well. I think the Windows one has developer in the name. This does download the developer edition on Linux. So let's go ahead then and go to the Azure portal. And what we're going to do is set up a Cloud Shell. I've got a Bash shell. You can also do it in PowerShell if you like. And to create a group, we need to have an empty resource group at the moment to put your containers into. So I'm going to show all this from the command line so it can be automated. So let's do az group create. Let's give it a name of container resource group. And we're going to put it in location West Europe. At this time, only West US, East US and West Europe is supported for container instances. I'm sure other regions will follow later. So let's create our resource group. Let's refresh. So we have our resource group created. And now what we're going to do is create the container. So we have this command here, az container create. So we're going to use the Docker image that I showed you from Docker Hub, the Microsoft SQL Server Linux image. I'm going to give it a container group name of MS SQL container group. We're going to put it in this resource group. We're going to give it 1 CPU, 3.5 gigs of RAM, which is the minimum required for SQL Server in containers. I'm going to listen on port 1433 publicly, and by specifying public for the IP address parameter, that does that for us. Accept the EULA and our SA password. This needs to be strong with a symbol, number and alphanumeric. MS SQL PID developer needs to be specified. If you don't specify this, it will fail. Collation, I'm just going to use the default collation. You can choose what you like. MS SQL enable HADR set to yes. And we're going to set the location to West Europe. So let's copy all of that, paste it into the Azure Cloud Shell, and let's create our container. So that comes back pretty much within a few seconds. It won't be ready yet. So if we go to our container resource group and refresh, click the refresh button. So the container group is created. And we can see that the container itself is waiting. So what it's doing now is it's going to Docker Hub. It's downloading the SQL Server Linux binaries from Docker Hub. Once that's been downloaded, it will then start the container. Just wondering if it has the file size on here. Can't seem to find that. Never mind. So let's go back to Azure and see the state of our deployment. So if you go back to the container resource group, click on that. So now it says the container is running. So there's our IP address. If we try and connect from Management Studio, so connect and put our password in from here. Let's copy that, paste into there, click connect. Hopefully SQL Server will come back. Now sometimes you may get a login failure. If that is the case, then the SQL Server service is still starting. So what you can do, if you want to monitor that, you can do az container logs and put in your resource group container rg. Name is MSSQL container group, and that will show us the logs. So we can see that SQL Server does seem to be started. Let's make this bigger. So it's copying the system database files across, then it's started here. And if you scroll down to the bottom, we don't see any errors. That all looks like it started fine. Let's go back to our Management Studio, so it's finally connected. Let's try that again. Let's paste that in. There we go. I think it was just starting before. So if we click New Query and do select at version, we can see the version information of SQL Server. So we've got SQL Server 2017 RTM on Linux, and that's it. We're up and running. Now, just one final note: if you want to specify a particular build of SQL Server 2017, you can add a tag to your image by specifying latest, 2017 latest, and 2017 GA. There's a few notes down here. If you scroll down, there's a note by a guy at Microsoft, Jeff. So have a look at that. So you can specify if you want to be on the latest one or the RTM version. So that's it. So to delete it, once you've run your deployments, maybe we can do one now actually. Let's do a deployment now just to show that working. So in Visual Studio 2017, I have a very simple database project. It's just got one table in it. So if we right click and deploy that, let's first build it. So we're building the SQL Server project. And let's deploy that to our container by clicking publish. You can also do this with SQL package. I will do another blog post on the full pipeline of how to do this. So let's create a database connection and let's add a new one. So if we go to the Azure portal, get our IP address from the portal. So let's copy that. Let's paste that into our server name. Click. Now we need to have SQL Server authentication because we're on Azure. Let's grab our password and paste that in. Click OK, and let's publish this to a database called Mark Test. Okay, let's publish. This is now publishing up to the Azure container instance from Visual Studio. You can also do this with SQL package or the DACFX framework if you're doing it from PowerShell or C#. So hopefully this will publish. So it's creating the database because it doesn't exist. It's running the script. So let's have a look in our databases. You can see Mark Test is there. Oops, click the wrong button. And we have our table called a table. So if we look at the columns in there, we can see that. So that's how we deploy. And now if we want to delete our container, we can simply go to az group delete. This will delete the whole group. We always want to delete the group because you can only deploy to an empty resource group at this time. So let's do that. And SQL Server will be now removed. So that's it. I will be doing a series on how to do this in a pipeline in Jenkins and maybe VSTS as well, to on-premise Docker hosts on Windows and Linux, also to an Azure container instance as well on Docker and Linux. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching.